Hey everyone, it's Norm Farrar, aka the Beard Guy here, and welcome to another Lunch with Norm, the rise of the microbrands.
Lunch with Norm. Lunch with Norm. Lunch with Norm.
All right, so on today's episode, we have a returning guest, a friend of mine, Joe Valley, who is a partner over at Quiet Light Brokerage, and this is kind of a unique description. I've never heard of an EXITpreneur, but Joe describes himself as an EXITpreneur advisor and partner over at Quiet Light. Anyways, today we're going to be talking about some pretty cool stuff. It's how to explore or exploring how to properly prep and resell your business. But before we get to it, I'm going to bring Kelsey on. Where are you, sir?
Hello.
Kelsey, you know what's really cool?
What? Tell me about it.
This coffee mug I just got from one of our listeners.
Ooh.
That's cool.
That is cool. Love it.
It literally just came in the door. So I'm not having my coffee with it, but I thought that was really nice. That was from Leva Weber over at Seller Mobile. So that was kind of cool.
That's awesome.
So anyways, what do we got to talk about? What do we have to do other than...
So, of course, if you're watching right now, smash that like button. And if you're new to the episode or the channel, you can go right over to the YouTube channel, and it will have all of the highlights from every single episode of Lunch with Norm. It gets cataloged there, so you can see the full episodes. Everything you need is there. And we also have a really cool AirPod contest happening now we've got, I think, 1 week left. It's the winner's going to be revealed on our special fan episode on Friday, but I'm going to put the link in the description. It's for U.S. residents only, so we're working on international prizes, but right now it's only for U.S. residents. But I'm going to put the link in the description. It's for AirPod Pros, so there's going to be one lucky winner, and that's going to be really exciting. And if you guys have any reviews that you'd like to share for the show, I'm going to put the link in the description that you can write a review for us, and we'll read it on the episode. So today's review that we're going to share is from Oleg. He says, one of my favorite podcasts. If you are an e-commerce seller, then this podcast needs to be in your library. Always interesting subjects, very well organized and perfectly delivered. And I love to see how the dad with his son work together. Sit back, relax, grab a cup of coffee, and enjoy the show. Thank you, Oleg. So if you guys have a review, post it and we'll read it for you guys. We really appreciate it. That's awesome.
Yeah, and luckily you are a room away, or I'd be throwing coffee mugs at you throughout the episode. But all right, so let's just say a quick hi to Marina, Rad, Fatia, Dowan. How's it going today? We do have a Facebook user. I don't know who that is. Maybe you can...
I'll check it out.
Bring that person up. But look, if you're listening today and this is on a replay, skip ahead. You don't have to listen to all this. This is just some housekeeping that we're doing. And if you're listening to this on my Facebook profile page, head over to, I think Kelsey's renamed it. It was AKA the Beard Guy, but now it's Norm Farrar, Lunch with Norm. And you'll be able to hear the whole episode as well as highlights, and you'll see some content. And Tom's here as well. Hey, Tom, how's it going? All right. So any questions, throw them over in the comment section. We'll get right to them. If we don't get right to them, we will answer them right after the podcast. So sit back, relax, grab a cup of coffee, and enjoy the episode. There's the man.
Yeah, you're always the man, Norm. It's not
Yeah,
me,
right.
for sure.
Give me a break. But as I was saying this before, I like the growth. It's good.
It's stuck and stunted, as I said. But we discussed that our wives only allow certain things.
Right. My wife is only allowing me to grow this beard a foot longer.
That's it.
And that's it. It's cut off.
Only until you
Well, not
start
cut
cooking
off, but cut off at the length. Yeah. But you know what? This is a funny story. When I was thinking about the beard, a friend of mine was actually the guy that came up with this idea, like Roy Orbison with his sunglasses.
Sure.
It was at the Prosper show where we met. I saw a guy sitting there with this really incredible ZZ Top style beard. I said, that would be so cool. And then, who knows? We met there, and the idea basically came from the show. Anyways, just kind of a coincidence.
I would like Kelsey to do a poll right now. How many people watching, listening actually know who ZZ Top is? That's showing our
true.
age right there.
Yeah,
And
that's
name
true.
One song, one ZZ Top song.
And you'll get a mug.
God,
Okay.
I think. Yeah.
You got it. You got it. You know ZZ Top.
She knows how to use them. Yep.
Yep. So, hey, Joe, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about who you are and Quiet Light?
Sure. So I am an entrepreneur first and foremost. Been self-employed since 1997. I'm kind of an old guy. Got some gray on the chin, just like Norm. I've built, bought, sold my own online businesses in my entrepreneurial life. I think I've had 6 total different entities, built, bought, or sold, a combination of those. I sold my last e-commerce business in 2010. And this is back in the day when it wasn't a big thing, right? Not everybody heard about Quiet Light or Empire or FE or Website Closers. And so, I'm pecking away. I was burnt out. I was tired of the grind. I took my online business through the best of and the worst of the economy, right? 2010. For those that we're still in high school, we're talking about the crash, the great recession, not the depression, right? And I was just grinding it out and I was tired. And I woke up one day and I said, you know what? I wonder if I can sell this thing. And I started doing an online search and I found 3 online business brokers. And 2 of them were sort of awful, reaching their phone through the hook to get a commission. And the third was my now business partner, Mark Doust at Quiet Light. And he really helped, made a difference in my life, told me to wait and said what was best for me. And I ended up waiting and selling the business in the fall of 2010, right? Fall of 2010. And kicked around in 2011, joined the team in 2012. And since then, personally closed about 100 million in total transactions, had my hands in close to $500 million in transactions. We've gone from a team of 4 back then. It was myself, Mark, Jason, and Amanda, all still with the team. And now we've got 12 total advisors and support staff, totaling probably 20 altogether. And it's been a fun ride. The biggest thing, man, is just educate, help. I just don't want to see anybody sell their business too soon, too late, or for too little, or think they can sell it for too much, because that's just a recipe for disaster as well. So education, here to help and be truthful and honest the entire time.
You just mentioned about selling your business at the right time. So just recently, I was talking to a guy that had a really great business, and then for one reason or another, he lost about 20% in sales the next year. Mm-hmm. And then this year or last, he lost another 15 to 20% in sales. But he had an excuse. Okay, I didn't get this exposure. I didn't get that exposure. That's not the right time to sell when you're on the decline, right?
Definitely not. No, definitely not. And excuses are great. And it's theory. It's an excuse, right? Well, look, I just got tired. I didn't do this. All you have to do is this. And for that, I want you to pay the full, value of the business. I know it's declining, but all you got to do is this. So, just do it and give me all your money now. That doesn't work, because it's A, a theory, and B, the person that's buying the business actually has to do the work, so therefore should get the reward. The funniest and oddest series of valuation calls I've ever had, Norm, is somebody that just waited too long. And I say the oddest and funniest series of calls because the first time I talked to the guy, we did a Skype call, and he wanted to do video. He's an American, but he was down in Colombia, and he was a martial arts guy. And he was eating lunch, and a beautifully shaved head like you, but tattoos everywhere and no shirt. And I'm like, first of all, this guy's a badass. He's scaring me already. Second, this is not very professional. I'm not sure if buyers would really be cool with, buying a business from this guy if his first presentation is like that. But the ultimately, he had what appeared to be a solid business just based upon the numbers. But the reality is he had one SKU. It was in the pet niche, and growth was off the charts. And he was driving that growth with one Facebook ad. So one SKU, one Facebook ad. And I said, look, man, this is a nice edge. Anything goes wrong, you're going to fall off, revenue's going to drop, and the value of business is going to drop dramatically. They said, so you got to price it right if we're going to go to market. And that means we've got to give it a discount because of the risk. It's one of the first things buyers look at. I'm going to get a return on my investment. What's the risk associated with it? Common sense, right? Stock market, real estate, businesses as well. But my advice was, don't do that. What you need to do is go out and expand your SKUs, balance that risk out, and keep testing new ads to get other ads that will work and stay fresh and grow. And he said, I don't know. He said, the beauty of this business and the value comes in the fact that it takes me about 4 hours a month to operate because there's one SKU and one ad. It's so easy. That is so valuable. Look at my lifestyle. I said, okay, probably not a good idea. Just this is what I think you should do. Follow the advice or do what you want. He happened to meet with one of our colleagues at Traffic and Conversion, Brad, same story, same conversation. And he went and listed it with a competitor, and it didn't sell. And shortly after he was out of that exclusive agreement, he came back and wanted to list it with Quiet Light and agreed to the discounted price. And unfortunately, just before agreeing to the proper valuation, that Facebook ad was disallowed and revenue dropped by 60% because any other ad that they used just didn't work and didn't perform as well. So absolutely the wrong time to sell, trying to sell for too much, let his ego get in the way of it. He was going to get a couple of $1 million if he had taken the time and done things properly. But instead, he was shooting for the moon and not wanting to do the work and think of other people first. Right? A lot of people, including myself back in the day, when you're selling a business, the most important person in that transaction in your head is you. That's actually not the most important person, especially when you're thinking about it now. If you want to sell your business, oh, I broke the rules and I didn't turn my phone off.
You can go grab it if you want.
No, I don't think that's a good idea. I'll lose my train of thought. It's hard to keep this mind on track anyway. The key to getting maximum value for your business is actually not thinking about yourself. You need to build a business that is going to be a great business for a great buyer to take over at a great price. If you only think about yourself, I guarantee you're not going to get the value, and you're going to get buyers that understand that and try to rake you over the coals because of it and try to get funky transaction, funky deal structure and all that. It's just not the right thing to do.
You know, I just talked to somebody today about it, but I've talked to multiple people about a conversation that we had. You probably don't remember this, but we were talking about, I'm an SOP guy. I like policies and procedures, systems, automation.
Yeah.
Anyways, a lot of people think that because you have that in place or because you have really great accounting, that your multiples are going to go through the roof. And you told me, and I was on the other side of the fence. I thought I was with these people saying, oh yeah, you're going to have huge multiples, because of all these systems. You said, no, Norm, think of it the other way. If you've got multiple companies that somebody's looking for and you have the systems and it's a turnkey operation and the others don't, yours is going to be more appealing and it'll sell faster, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get an extra zero. You might get an extra bump, but you're not going to get these huge multiples that you think just because you have SOPs. It's a convenience factor for somebody to step in.
It's going to instill confidence in your buyer that you are a real business person running a real business that's going to help them get a real return on their investment. It's building trust. And you do that so incredibly well. Your SOP podcast on the Quiet Light podcast is still one of the most popular.
Oh, very good.
It's a funny thing. I never thought it would be because you were talking about SOPs for SOPs and VAs with SOPs and SOPs. I think for making coffee, I think you had one. Still one of the most popular episodes we've ever had. But it's instilling trust and instilling confidence in the buyer. And you will get a bump because of that slightly. I think we're recording this, actually it's live, but it's January 13th. In 2020, 47% of our transactions sold at or above asking price, right?
Nice.
Yeah, I know, shake your head. And that's because of the work we do in advance to help people get prepared and do the right thing. And when you do things like SOPs, it's the right thing, and buyers believe in it more and are willing to jump all over it and either pay full ask or bid it up. And certainly a better deal structure, right? Better deal structure is so important. You don't want to sell things and stress for the next 3 years because you don't know if you're going to get paid or not, or you're getting paid on an earn out off of profit and things like that. It's just bad ideas.
I'll tell you a really great reason for me to do it, other than, I'm just anal when I put together these processes. But it's at the end of the day, if you want to really, work backwards from exit all the way back, at the end of the day, when you sell a business, you're going to, I hate saying this, but you're going to feel like you're an employee. They're going to ask you to stay on board usually for a period of time, or have a consulting, come on for, a year, whatever it is. I've talked to one person, this is crazy, Joe. They wanted them on for 3 years, which I would never have agreed to.
How big was the business? Because there's definitely, I'm going to tell you my experience there, but I see something dramatically different, but it all depends upon the circumstances. How big is the business?
Under $1 million.
Under $1 million. That's absolutely insane.
Yep.
Look, the average transaction, it's called transition training in the asset purchase agreement that we work with and the attorneys that we work with. It's literally, quote unquote, up to 90 hours over the first 3 months. No, I take that back. Up to 40 hours over the first 90 days. Up to 40 hours over the first 90 days. And it's more than enough. My business was really complex because it was built in Dreamweaver. There was a lot of codings. There were inventory. There was recurring revenue. I content every week, a very, very expensive Google Ads campaign, lots of details. And the guy that bought my business used about 26 of the 40 hours. So no, do not sell your business and go to work for somebody. You're selling your business to free yourself of that burden, of that grind, to get off the hamster wheel so you can put some money in the bank, take a break, and do it again, with less stress, more capital, less debt, and more experience and knowledge. But anybody that's going to work for somebody for 6 to 12 months and working in the business instead of just being an advisor during training and transition, in my experience, is doing it wrong because they're doing it on their own. And that's part of the sort of ignorance discount umbrella that we talk about sometimes, or they're using the wrong advisor that just doesn't protect them very well.
And what I found, well, first of all, if you hand over the SOPs, I can get out of there quicker. But there's a I don't know about you, but as the owner, all of a sudden I feel like an employee and I've got to answer to that person. And there is a resentment kind of that comes up, and you just dread going to work. And the longer and longer this builds, it's not good for you. It's not good for the company who just bought your business. But anyways, that was a long-winded story about SOPs.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Well, just simply put, don't do that. You do not go to work for the buyer of your business. You're selling the business so that you can step out of the grind and put some money in the bank and live to fight another day and go on your next adventure. I said close to 100 million in total transactions. That's a lot of transactions. And I think there's one transaction that I sold to for a couple in New Zealand that ended up with a year-long consulting agreement in order to get paid the very final payment at the end. And normally this is mostly cash, but they were between a rock and a hard place. They were trying to sell their business to buy a house for all cash they were under contract with, and they couldn't get a bank loan because they had foreign income because it was a Amazon.com business. And we talked several times throughout the year. And the sad thing is that the buyer of the business never took their advice anyway. And so it was a complete waste of time, but it was indeed tiring and frustrating for them. But the other, few hundred times, it's up to 40 hours over the first 90 days. That's the way it should be. You're selling your business. You're not going to work for somebody.
You would look at an e-com business, not just an Amazon business, correct?
Yeah, we work, I think total 53% of our total transactions last year were a combination of either FBA businesses or physical product businesses, Shopify, things of that nature. And the rest were SaaS content, blogs, digital subscription boxes, things of that nature.
Yeah. One of the guys coming onto the podcast in a couple of weeks, get this, just sold his subscription box service for $500 million.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. Yeah. He's sitting at home eating bonbons now.
Now, isn't there at that level, the buyers, the private equity firms, they think differently. Yeah. And they are going to generally seek some sort of time period where you're going to stick around, but not in the under $1 million, under $2 million. Even a recent one where it was, $9 million, the owner of the business was there for training and transition, and then was able to bail. But most of the time, if you're a professional buyer and a professional seller, just good people, that relationship is going to continue beyond that initial training and transition period. And you're going to be there as the seller to help out. If somebody has a question, and answer a text message or a phone call or an email. If it goes beyond that and they're requesting more work, then just do a consulting agreement and get paid for it.
Yeah, exactly. So tell me what an ignorance discount is.
Okay, so an ignorance discount is not just dollars. It can come in many, many forms. Everybody knows about the aggregators these days. It's all over the news. Thrasio's got $1 billion valuation. They just raised a whole bunch more money. They're good people. The problem is that they're buying these FBA businesses direct from the sellers. And those sellers are going, wow, this is great. I'm just going to sell to XYZ aggregator. And they're not properly calculating sellers' discretionary earnings. They're not doing add backs properly. There's no competition. Why in the world? Norm, if you were going to sell something on eBay and there was only one buyer on eBay, one user of eBay, you would get, that price for it, or they'd negotiate down. But because it's, an auction-based system, lots of buyers are going to look at it and bid up that price or get closer to asking price. When you go direct to one seller, one buyer, like an aggregator, the first thing is there's no competition. So you're definitely going to get a discount. You're giving away equity. Number two, the deal structures are pretty rough, right? A lot of people do it and say, look, I don't have to pay a broker fee. I'm just going to go direct. Well, in that process, the first thing you're doing wrong is calculating sellers' discretionary earnings. Are you doing your add backs properly? Do you even know what an add back is? I've seen so many businesses that come in, we have a discovery call, and we're ballparking, discretionary earnings on a call, because that's what the multiple is applied to, sellers' discretionary earnings. It's not net income, it's net income plus add backs. A simplified example of an add back would be the owner's payroll. The thing that most people miss when doing an add back in that situation is the taxes associated with it. Payroll taxes. You're paying an extra 5 or 6%, but they don't do an add back for that. So immediately they're losing if they pay themselves $100,000 a year, but they don't do the add back. They do the add back for the payroll, but not the payroll taxes. That's $5,000. $5,000 times a 4-time multiple. It's a $20,000 discount right away. That's the ignorance discount. So it comes in the form of dollars. I've seen it to the tune of hundreds of thousands of dollars. It comes in the form of not properly presenting your P&Ls, doing it on a cash basis instead of an accrual basis. Buyers love that. I would love to buy a business that it's, on a cash basis and the business is growing like crazy. Why? Because all of the money, all of the profits going right back in inventory, and that reduces the net income. This is boring shit, I know. It makes people's eyes bleed. The reality is that you're giving away hundreds of thousands of dollars through sheer ignorance because you just don't know what you don't know. And then there's deal structure, right? As you just said, people have to go to work for their buyers. That's not the case. It's really not the case. And I've done hundreds of these things. And that's the simplest thing, is just up to 40 hours over the first 90 days after closing. The non-compete should be very, very narrow. Should equal roughly what the multiple is. And it should be for that specific type of product, the same customer and type of product. You can sell on Amazon, anything else you want to sell on Amazon, long as you're not directly competing for the same customer. But then there's cash, there's cash plus earnout, there's cash plus seller note, there's cash plus stability payment, there's cash plus equity roll. There's so many different variations to it. And the aggregators are going to look for the lowest multiple possible going in. And then they're going to hold back some of that in the form of what they call a stability payment. So, if you sold me a business for $1 million, I bought it from you for $1 million, probably going to pay you 2 to 2.5 times a multiple, right? So you're doing $400,000 in discretionary earnings. 2.5 gets you to $1 million. It could be exciting for you, but the reality is that if that's a solid business, it's probably worth 3.5, not 2.5. So right away you're losing, $400,000. But then, so it's $1 million. These aggregators are going to hold back probably a couple of $100,000 for 12 months in the form of a stability payment. What the hell is a stability payment? Try to Google it. It's not there. It's a new term that they've coined. It means that if the business generates the same amount of revenue within the 12 months after I purchase it, I will give you that $200,000. But if it's at 98% of the revenue, you give up that $200,000. Now their goal is to grow it, and most of them grow it like crazy, but they're protecting themselves in that sense. And they also give or seek working capital, right? Your $500 million transaction that your buddy sold, I guarantee you working capital was built into the purchase price. It's just part of the gig. And it was a stock sale. These are asset sales for the most part. Mm-hmm. And, even the $9 million one I just mentioned, there was no working capital built into it. Working capital is something that the buyer is looking for to pay for the expenses of the business in the first few months. And the way the aggregators try to get it is in inventory. Your inventory should be sold for what you paid for it. Landed cost of goods sold, not just what you paid for it when it was in China, but also the cost to get it to FBA. That's what you should get. But in most cases, they're negotiating a couple of months worth of inventory as well. And that right away will eat up what you would have paid an advisor. So there's all sorts of different ignorance discounts, if you will, and it's not just in terms of dollars. The toughest one, I think, is in deal structure, because when you're trying to get off this hamster wheel, you're trying to get beyond the grind and put some money in the bank and move on to your next adventure. The last thing you want to do is worry about that payment showing up, or getting paid as a percentage of net income, because that's just fuzzy math to begin with. 12 months out, am I going to get paid? And you're going to stress and worry about it. You're not really free. What you want to get is free, so that you can put your full mental focus on your next adventure or whatever you're going to do. All of it is an ignorance discount in my view. And it's not just money, and it's not just because, maybe ignorance discount is the wrong term, but I've been in this for a long time, and an uninformed, ignorant mind normally says no. Here, I want people to understand that they say no to working with an advisor. And I think it's because of the educational lack thereof. There's so much value that goes into it. And it's tough for me to talk about this more, because that's the role I play. But when I take off this advisor hat, it just honestly frustrates and saddens me that people are doing this. I sold something in December. It was about $6 million. And in this case, it was an aggregator, but you tell me what you'd rather do. We've got an aggregator who buys it at 2.5 multiple. They want a couple of months worth of inventory, and they're going to do a stability payment as well. So you're giving away $400,000 in that $1 million deal, where you're not getting it at closing, but you're getting some. 100% done. That aggregator instantly takes that 2.5 multiple and puts it in their portfolio. It's instantly worth 10 times. Right? So they're a huge equity bump for them. The other type of aggregator is one that I worked with in December, where they bought 70% of the business, goes into a new co. Mm-hmm. So in this case, they're $700,000 in this case, let's say, and then 30% is left, and you're rolling that into the new co. And that 30% instantly becomes worth 10 times. So you're giving stuff away on the other side and you're free almost, but not quite, and you're losing a lot of money. Or in this case, you're selling 70% of the assets of your business. You're rolling the 30% over to the next one, and you're looking for a second exit someday. And that 30% instantly becomes worth 10 times. So in this mathematical, my God, my eyes are bleeding situation, in that $400,000 discretionary earnings example, where you sold it for $1 million to aggregator number one. Aggregator number two, they're buying 70% of it. You're keeping 30. That's $120,000 that you're rolling, right? That instantly becomes worth $1.2 million on paper because you've rolled it.
Wow.
It's a much better deal. Now, either way, you don't want to go to one of them directly because you want them competing against each other. In addition to the entire marketplace, SBA buyers will pay you more, right? As I said, we've sold 47% in 2020 at or above asking price because it's a competitive place. We've had an average, I think it was, I don't have the stats up in front of me, but an average of 2.5 offers on every listing that we had, on average, right?
Nice.
A few maybe didn't get any, some got 15.
Yeah.
So that's the ignorance discount. That was a long answer to a short question. It's what I do though sometimes, Norm. I apologize.
No problem at all. I want to talk about the multiple for a second, because I've heard some crazy, I want to bring it back into focus. When people are talking about an average multiple, we're not talking about 20 times. We're talking about 2.5 to maybe 4.85 at, I mean, if you get 5, you're doing extremely well.
Norm, you and I have known each other for a long time.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to say it like it is. I mean, multiple of what? You know, if you're hearing crazy multiples out there, people, I'm going to call bullshit right now. Are we allowed to swear on StreamYard?
You can.
All right. Yeah, I can just be myself then. I'm calling bullshit right then and there. Yeah. I'm exposed to all of these things. And the problem is that people don't know what their multiple is.
Right.
Right? You go to website closers and they've got a multiple up there that says 5 times. You go to Quiet Light and it says 4.3 times. You go, oh, I'm going with website closers. They sell at a higher multiple. Yep. Bullshit. It's website closers, good people. It's a different process, a different way that they list it. It includes the inventory, right? So they're taking the purchase price plus the inventory, dividing by discretionary earnings. Over here at Quiet Light and everywhere else, it's a multiple of discretionary earnings plus inventory. And the reason is that inventory is always a moving target. It's always a moving number. You don't want to manage your business towards having a certain amount of inventory on hand at closing so that you don't give any away. That's the problem. So the first thing is multiple of what? People don't even know how to calculate seller's discretionary because it's so damn complex. There's in what we call the three levels of add backs, there's 6 levels between each one, and there's many, many more. So multiples all over the place. Don't listen to your buddy about his friend that sold it for whatever, unless it's a $500 million transaction. That was a hell of a multiple, I guarantee you. If we're talking about sub-million, sub-2, sub-$3 million deals, there's stages to it. So if your discretionary earnings is $100,000 and your business is 24 months old and it's diversified and it's growing, you're probably going to get a 3-time multiple of discretionary earnings plus inventory, maybe more. They're starting to bump up a little bit because of the aggregators and competition in the space. I've got a listing that I'm launching tomorrow. Yes, tomorrow. It's going out at a 5-time multiple. Discretionary earnings are 1.395, so just under 1.4 million. We're going out at a 5-time multiple because it's 52% Amazon, 48% Shopify. One of the SKUs that generates 40% of the revenue has a utility patent on it. Growth is 300% over the last 12 months. It's defensible. It's growing like crazy. The workload is 30 hours a week, and they have 2 VAs. And the business is 8 years old, right? It checks every box for a buyer. So we're going out at a 5-time multiple. Now, does that mean that's all it deserves? Probably not, to be honest with you. But the owners of the business are full-time financial professionals, and this business is growing beyond what they can handle. And they want to get it done. They want to get it sold. They bought it from me a few years ago for an awful lot less than what I'm selling it for. So they're getting an incredible return on their investment. So when you look at multiples as a seller, you say, oh, okay, that's what these guys sell for. That's where my multiple must be. That's not always the case. It's not one black and white formula. Different people have different motivations, and we price them according to market value, what we think we can get it sold for, and the seller motivations. I sold a business that I listed it in November at a 2.9 multiple. It had strong year-over-year growth, was an FBA business in the kids space, and it was listed at 2.9 million, which means it had $1 million in discretionary earnings. That's a low multiple for $1 million in discretionary earnings. There was nothing wrong with the business, but the seller wanted to have it closed in cash before the end of the year. She gave me less than 45 days. We did it. We listed it at a low multiple to get it sold quickly so she could donate a whole bunch of money to charity, her own charitable organization, and not pay taxes. She's scared to death of what's going to happen in the States with the new president and capital gains taxes. So the best way you want to learn about the multiples and the value of your business is get a valuation, get a professional to look at it. Don't talk to your buddy, because your buddy probably doesn't know what a multiple of what actually is. It can be incredibly tiresome and frustrating. It's a lot of detail work, creative, and digging deep to make sure you're getting a proper calculation of discretionary earnings first. Because you could get a 4-time multiple, perhaps, but if you've got two businesses together and one guy did it on his own and another used a professional, I guarantee you that the guy that used a professional or woman that used a professional has a higher discretionary earnings. And they're going to get a higher, not if they got equal multiples, it might be 4 times of 600,000 in discretionary earnings versus 4 times 500,000. It all adds up and makes sense, but it's not simple, Norm, I guess is my point. It's complex. I've had 5,000 plus one-on-one conversations with entrepreneurs in the last decade, trying to, grind it out and go through this process. It's not simple. It's very, very complex. If you want to get it right and you want to get maximum value for your business with the right deal structure.
It's almost like Amazon. Amazon is so complicated. You can't really know everything about it. You hire, like for us anyways, we get professionals. So we hire experts in PPC, we hire experts in copy. And we had an incredible copywriter on the other day. But why would I not pay a little bit extra to get 10 times more?
Yeah.
And it's a little bit different when you're selling a business, but why would I not hire somebody that's in it, 2 feet? I don't know. I mean,
and you already have a job. You're running a company that you're ready to move on from, and now you're going to take on another enormous role with what is likely your most valuable asset. Not a good idea. You screw that up, you're going to lose an awful lot of dough and an awful lot of sleep. It's probably your most valuable asset. You got to take care of it and do it right.
I went through that past way, many years ago before the beard. And what a learning curve. So first of all, deal was done. Everything was cool. I learned one thing. If I'm an international company, first thing I do before I set up that company is go to a tax consultant and a good lawyer. And on both sides of the fence, not just US, but also wherever you are. Because I messed up. I've told the story before, but I messed up big time. The deal ran through. I didn't get it. But what was a shock to me was the due diligence process. I had no idea in the world how long the due diligence process was. And it was like simple things, but I had to, because I didn't have the proper records, it took me forever.
Yeah.
And it was all paper back then too. I had to photograph every invoice, every receipt,
I had to get bank statements from a year ago in 2010. Not going to happen.
It's not going to happen. But again, that was my 2 feet in the fire. And believe me, I don't want to step in that fire again.
So we talk about preparation for due diligence with our clients all the time and how to do it properly.
Yeah. So Kelsey, any questions?
Yep, we got a whole bunch of questions coming in. From Simon, how long do you expect the Amazon exit gold rush to last? 1, 2, 5, or how many years?
Good question. Back in 2016, I wrote a little ebook called 10 Steps to Selling Your Amazon Business. And back then, people still didn't think they could sell their Amazon business. Each year since then, I've been trying to push multiples of listings in the FBA space. And I think, honestly, it's finally here. I think this gold rush, using your term, is going to be here for the foreseeable future. I think Amazon has, barely scratched the surface of what they're capable of. And entrepreneurs growing Amazon businesses, I think it's just going to continue to expand. The only danger is, the news and these aggregators that are just spending god awful amounts of money buying these businesses. Now they're buying them at a very low multiple, yes, but if one of them implodes, it's going to be bad for every FBA seller, because the others are going to get really nervous and get more cautious. The investors are going to slow down and stop giving them money. And so that's certainly a risk. But right now, if I look back, and I've been doing this again since 2012, it's just going to keep getting stronger. And hopefully the multiples will keep going up, because the education process, the norms out there in the world are helping people run better businesses that are more professional. And you're thinking about your eventual exit. For me, I never thought I could exit a business. It never occurred to me. I've been self-employed for, 13 years before I sold a business. And it just never occurred to me that I could with the others that I had. You think of it now because of the education of the world that we live in. So if you run that business to prepare for an eventual exit, knowing how to maximize the value of the business, you'll be able to do it at the right price for you and at a good deal for the buyer as well. And I think that will continue to happen for years to come. I just don't see an end yet.
Very good. Kels?
Okay, from Tom, do you need to have a U.S. entity to be able to sell, or does it make it just more attractive having a U.S. entity?
It's a good question. Kelsey, ask where Tom is from, if you wouldn't mind. The simple answer is no. The deal that I did with an equity role, they were Canadian. And most of these are asset sales. So the entity doesn't actually matter. In this situation with the Canadians, they wanted to take advantage of the share sale situation in Canada. You can earn up to, I think is it $900,000 now, Norm? Or I'm not sure.
It was 500,000, but
it's a pretty strong number.
Yep.
And you do that tax-free. Whereas if you're selling a straight asset sale, the taxes are much higher. So they flipped it to a stock sale. But yeah, I've sold businesses for people from Argentina, Hong Kong, Canada, obviously, Germany, Ukraine, all over the world for the most part. The only area of the world where buyers still have a prejudice against is Eastern European countries. And I don't know why. If those folks, listen to Lunch with Norm and have, their financials run properly, use proper bookkeeping and a professional bookkeeper, they should get the same value if they do everything right, regardless of where they're from and what their last name is.
Very good. Kels?
Okay, I believe Tom is from Canada too.
Tom? Is he? Okay.
I think so, but I'm not 100% sure. Fatiha, can you give an example of what you've seen that an Amazon seller could achieve if they have a good business running for a year or two?
Okay, so a year too young, don't sell it, right? You're going to get a pretty serious discount if you sell the business in 12 months. Why? Because it's simply young. You haven't worked the kinks out yet, and there's going to be a lot of risk associated with that from a buyer's perspective, and they're going to ask for a discount. 2 years, Jeremy is somebody that comes to mind. I sold his business. He sold grilling aprons and had a great brand around it. We started talking probably 12 months in. He was in the corporate world making six figures. His wife had a baby. She was a school teacher. And he was just burnt out and tired. And they decided he was actually going to quit the job and stay at home with the baby while she stayed employed, making, low $20,000 a year, but great benefits. And he ran that business for a couple of years. They didn't take any cash out of it. They used about $5,000 initially to buy product. It hit right away. And then they had to go to the home equity line of credit to, buy more inventory and keep up. The only thing he kept out of the business was a $600 camera after 24 months that he owned the company. He bought a camera, he used to take his own photos because he just was a photographer bug, loved it, kept the camera, and ended up exiting the business for $1 million, maybe a little bit more with inventory. So he was making $100,000 a year, and after taxes, probably $70,000. In the 2 years, he made $500,000 each year, paid less in taxes, right? Because capital gains taxes instead of regular income taxes. So he really made about 10 years worth of income in 2 years, and then took some time off, stayed home again with his kid. All of his neighbors thought he was crazy, just a lazy bum, not doing anything, living off his wife's teacher salary. Meanwhile, he's crushing it on Amazon. Started a small consulting company, helping Amazon sellers, and eventually launched his own brand as well. But that's just one of many, many examples where people have just done the right thing, created a great brand, used proper bookkeeping right away, or a professional bookkeeper, and just built it to grow it. Built it to sell it. They bootstrap, they grow, they sell, and then repeat. The repeat part is much less stressful because you know what the hell you're doing. You get some money in the bank, you're debt free, and you have a clear path to become that term, Norm, exitpreneur, right? An entrepreneur is what we all are. We start businesses for the lifestyle. We want to grow it. We have a vision, all sorts of things that we want to do. The exitpreneur is one that does that and sells the business, knowing that the vast majority of the money that they're going to make comes the day that they sell the business, not the grind while you're running it. Now, eventually, if you run that business for 5, 6, 7 years, you're going to make good money, and the grind becomes a little less because you've got more income to pay professionals underneath you to do your work and more staff, and you'll make a good living. The problem with that, though, is that sometimes we do this, we start this, these businesses because we just want that lifestyle, and we're not Mark Zuckerbergs of the world, right? We're not going to take this business from zero to many, many billions in revenue. We learn, and this is a really important thing. You got to learn who you are and what you're good at and what your goals are, and set them, write them down, and review them on a regular basis. Because the worst thing you can do is just focus what entrepreneurs do, which is shiny object syndrome. I can do that. I can do that. I can do it. It's a joke in my house. I tell my wife I can do that because I love to do everything. I can't do everything. And I've learned not to promote myself to my own level of incompetence, right? Our structure at Quiet Light is one where we hire only seasoned, successful entrepreneurs that become advisors. They have to have built, bought, sold their own online business, and they have to be very, very successful and well off, if you will, because I'm a terrible HR manager. I don't want to promote myself to that level of incompetence. I've done it before, and it doesn't really work out that well. So lots and lots of stories there that I could share with you, and I will share with you anytime you want to chat.
What about just building a proper business plan? Does that help when you're looking?
Hell is that? None of us build.
Yeah, I know.
I didn't go to Wharton. I didn't go to Harvard. I've never ever created a full business plan. It's that bootstrap, grow, and figure it out, ready, fire, aim type of thing that I think is my style, and so many of the people that I bond with so closely. I bond very well with the aggregators, the guys that went to Wharton graduate school and Harvard graduate school. It's a different beast and a different mindset. When you're growing an Amazon business, I don't think a business plan is going to do you a damn bit of good. I think listening to every podcast and listening to every expert, testing, and doing it right is really the approach that is going to work for you. But what the hell do I know?
I like building business plans. Sorry.
I'm not that level of a detail guy, so I don't. That doesn't mean it's right or wrong.
Hey,
it's just not right for me.
5-page coffee policy. You don't think I write business plans?
I think you have. I think you have, indeed.
Okay, so this kind of leads into one other question. Why is it important to set that exit goal?
Well,
and when should it be done?
look, if you set a weight loss goal, right? It's January and you want to lose 20 pounds, you step on the scale and say, okay, I'm weighing in at 200. I want to weigh 180. I've got 20 pounds to lose. You need to know where you are today, or what you figure out where you want to go, and then you see where you are today, right? So I want to go to 180. I step on the scale. I'm at 200. I need to lose 20 pounds. I know what I need to do. I don't know how to do it yet, but I know what I need to do. If I want to exit my business for $2 million, that's a lofty goal, but I need to know where I am today. In order to do that, I need to step on that scale, and that scale is a proper valuation. I need to know what my current seller's discretionary earnings is, and I need to know what the proper value of my business is today if I wish to sell it, so that I know how close or how far away from my goal I am. Right? If you're going to set a goal to sell for 2 million, you really need to know what your value is today, so you can see how close or how far. And then you can do things and that's that ignorance discount thing. Avoid the ignorance discount and grow the business faster with little things that you can do to improve the value of the business through proper bookkeeping, through a slight price adjustment. You're smiling because that cute dog is trying to get comfortable.
Absolutely. I'm just watching.
He's really struggling, folks.
I'm listening to you, though. I'm listening.
Around. He can't. There he is. He's settled now. Okay. He's settled. All right. So I don't want to tell me once I get too deep into the weeds, say, Joe, get out of the weeds. So listen, if you sell 1,000 units a month of widget A and you plan to sell your business in 2 years, 6 months before you sell, if you increase the price of that widget by $1 and the conversion rate was the same, you didn't have any negative, you tested it, right? A/B split testing, you tested it, and everything was cool. You're earning an extra $1 per unit or $1,000 per month for that 6 months. You can actually take the 6 months prior, right? So let's say that we're selling in January 2021. You did it for the last 6 months of 2020. You take your sales for the first 6 months of 2020, total number of units, simple math, 1,000 units per month times $1. I didn't sell it for an extra $1 then, but I've adjusted it. I've tested it. It's going to carry forward to the new owner of the business. I can do an add back in my add back schedule. $1 times 1,000 units, or $1,000 a month. That's $6,000 in that first 6 months of the year that didn't actually hit my bank account, but it's going to carry forward to the new owner of the business because of the work that I did to grow it and test it and make it better for you. And now if I'm selling my business at a 4-time multiple, that's going to add $24,000 to the list price of the business. That's one of the reasons why I just sold a $3.5 million business with inventory at a 2.9 multiple, because she had bumped the value of her number one selling product by $4 6 months prior to us listing it. And we went back to the first 6 months and took the total number of units times $4, and it added something like $192,000 to the list price of the business. Norm, I had 6 offers on that business.
Wow.
It was math and logic. It's not gray, it's black and white. That's the problem with doing things on your own. That's the ignorance discount to avoid.
Right.
So there's so much work to be done in terms of little tweaks like that you can grow your business without growing your revenue or growing your sales and things of that nature.
I know that we've got a few more questions, but I got to ask,
talk quicker.
What does it cost to have you come out and take a look at a business?
Time, right? So one of my mentors, and I hope everyone has one, I was chatting with him a couple of years ago, and he said, Joe, I'm describing our process. He's like, it sounds like you're giving everything away for free and just hoping for a good outcome. And I said, that's exactly the case, Walter. We help first, we educate, and then we, end up creating a great relationship with those folks, and they understand that they're going to get the most value by working with us. So it doesn't cost anything. What people have to do is get beyond their fear and reach out and ask, right? Go to quietlight.com and fill out the valuation form and go through the process and learn and educate. If you're going to run a marathon or a 5K, you're going to train for it. If you want to sell your business for $500,000, $5 million, $500 million, you better train for it. You better get prepared. You better get ready. And the only way to do that is to see where you are today so that you can reach that exit goal at the end.
So it does not cost anything. And you're basically just building out a relationship.
Yeah, that's me. That's me giving a long-winded answer to a simple question. Thanks for summarizing. No, it doesn't cost anything.
Okay, very good.
Yeah.
Kels, let's get on with, there's a few more questions, I think.
Yes. Let's see. So I think if there's anything else to add to this one, do you guys offer a plan or service to help look into a business and help increase the multiple?
Yeah, that's part of what we do every day. Every day. That business is sold for 3.5. The first time we looked at it, her goal was to sell the business for about 2.2 million. And her trends were down slightly, and there were some things that she was doing wrong that just didn't fit. It wasn't going to jive well with the buyers of that business. So we agreed to work together to improve those things. And she went to work for a year and came back. And by the time that she came back, we ended up in 12 months, getting her an extra $1.3 million. So it's part of what we do. And again, there's no charge for it. We're not investment bankers, we're advisors. We build these relationships, perhaps foolishly, in the hopes that you'll stick around with us. But I think you'll find that we're all pretty good people. We're all entrepreneurs, and we love what we do. We love hanging out with people and enjoying seeing them succeed. It's fun.
Okay. Just a small clarification. Tom is actually from France, not Canada, so a little different. But is there anything else that changes with that?
Quebecois.
Just that the rumors are false. That the French people are fantastic. I went to Paris summer 2019, man. Those people are so damn nice. They don't like each other. This is the thing. I sat beside some folks, and they were both from Paris, and they said, we don't like each other, but we love it when you come. So it was, no, it doesn't change a damn thing, Tom. Not at all.
Okay. From Jeffrey, if your business needs specifics, does your business need specific certifications? For example, hazmat, does that help or hurt you in the selling process?
That's a barrier to entry. So I would think it's going to help, right? Anybody can sell a widget. You went through the difficulty of getting FDA approval for hazmat stuff, whatever you had to do there. So it's more defensible. I like it. It will help.
Okay, and this is from Heike. What kind of impact returning customers have to a multiplier, or would subscription model be even better?
Yeah, subscription model's great. Love it. And one thing Amazon's done now, if you're not aware of it, is their subscribe and save reports are just so much better. I'm working with someone we know in common, Norm, can't say his name. The guy's just damn good at what he does. And his subscription revenue is just, I'll do it this way so it's going up properly. Amazon has the reports where we're able to see how quickly the subscribe and save revenue is growing. And what does that do? It reduces your advertising cost as a percentage of total revenue, your overhead, your expenses, and it's just that base revenue that keeps growing. Buyers love it. They absolutely love it. It's going to push the multiples higher now that we're getting good data out of Amazon from subscribe and save.
Very good. Okay, from Fatiha, this may be a silly question, but going to ask anyway. I've heard people selling just an active Amazon seller account at good prices, but with no products or inventory. Is that possible?
Anything's possible. I don't think you're going to get anything for it. I was at an event in, I think it was it Cancun? I might have been with you, Norm, at the time.
Yes, it was.
I've got somebody texting me, and they've trying to sell me. They've got a gated Amazon seller account and trying to get some good money for it. And I sat on the bus with a bunch of experts like Norm and said, look, this is what this guy's asking. I don't know the value. I don't see it. What do you guys think? And they're like, nah, it's not worth anything. I can do that on my own. Why would I pay that guy $5,000, $10,000, or whatever he was looking for? Things change. I don't know. We don't sell empty seller accounts. Norm, what's your opinion?
Yeah, it depends, and it depends on if you're approved in certain categories. But if it's just a blank account, you do get some sales history, which helps out. But I had a guy approach me the other day for some general categories, and it was $8K for an Amazon, and I just laughed, But it's funny because I remember that was with Todd Snively.
Yeah,
the first time I met him, and
right.
you brought that up. But things change. Like to get into Oh, maybe the jewelry category. That's a tough category to get into, or that might shed a different light on things. But yeah, just a general Amazon account. Yeah.
Yeah, good. Makes sense.
Okay, so we have a two-parter from Matthew.
Okay.
So Matthew's asking, is there a certain number of product buyers they're looking for when buying a company? And would a higher number of products be considered a negative?
Ask him what he means by product buyers, or if he just means buyers. So I think the question is, let's call them SKUs. Does having 5,000 SKUs bode positively or negatively? It depends upon the business and the complexity of it and how you manage that, right? If you have that many SKUs, you're probably drop shipping and things of that nature. Simple is good, but not so simple you're on a knife's edge like my buddy down in Colombia with tattoos and no shirt on. That's too simple. It's easy to run, but it's very, very risky. You want to balance things out. Maybe, I think probably 5 to 10 SKUs would be comfortable, very, very, easy to operate, but still very comfortable. And then you're launching a new SKU every quarter, every 6 months, every year. So you're showing that the business can grow and that there is a clear growth path with launching new products and new SKUs and variations of them. If you get up into the hundreds of SKUs, I think buyers go, oh God, that's so complex. It's so hard. So if you're gonna run that kind of business, you have to listen to Norm's SOP podcast and get your SOPs in place and talk about the defensibility of it. I've seen those businesses and they're kind of cool, right? So example would be, there's very little competition for no-name products that, like I've got a hot tub, right? A little ring for a filter on a hot tub, right? That's not a really cool brand, but a lot of people have hot tubs, and it's one example of a company that's a branded company that's selling things that are all sorts of different product lines like that. And I've seen those. They're very defensible. There's an endless amount of expansion for them. They just need to have really good SOPs in place for product reviews and launching and things of that nature. Personally, I like that because it is more defensible and the growth opportunities are pretty huge.
Okay, let's see. We got a big one from
There. I was waiting for that one.
All right, so let's see how my reading skills are. Which account will sell faster and for a greater multiple? Company A has an active account for 5 years, but was only highly profitable for the past 2 years. Company B has an account with the same profitability, but has been active for 2 years total. In other words, A had its wheels spinning in the mud for the first 3 years, whereas B got traction on day one, even though they both ended up at the same place.
Yeah, so assuming that their bottom line discretionary earnings is exactly the same, that they both have 10 SKUs, that they both launched 2 SKUs in the last 2, everything is exactly the same amount of VAs and everything else. But company A, let's see if I can, where's my chart? They had 2 good years and then an awful year and then 2 really great years. And those 2 really great years matched company B's only 2 years. I would go with company A because I think it tells a great story that, you had a couple of good years and then something happened in your life or competition came in and you got hurt financially and you said, I'm going to fight through this. This business is defensible. It can ward off attacks. And instead of it just being a theory, the numbers show it and you had a down year and then you came up 2 years. So it's got more history to it. So I think that would probably be more valuable if everything else is exactly the same. How much more? Depends. I not much, right? Not much.
Yeah, you got a personalized message there from Darwin, by the way.
Okay. And how do I see that?
Right on your screen.
Joe. Oh, yes. Of course. Of course.
We just got looks like about 2 more.
Okay.
Kimberly, what percentage do they charge for selling a business?
It's a good question. I hate when people ask that question first. So thank you for asking this way at the end. Because it shouldn't be the most important question in all the questions that you ask, because that's just, looking at things the wrong way. And this is obviously from me, and this is what I do for a living, so take it with a grain of salt. But we use what's called the modern lean-in scale. So it's 10% on the first million, 9% on the second, 8% on the third. I'll move my hand over here. 7%, 6%, it goes down pretty dramatically. So something around $7 million is probably around 5%, something like that. I don't have the numbers up in front of me, but it's a sliding scale.
Okay, and this is from Darwin. Does anyone know on here if you can transfer just one product listing over to another Amazon account, not the whole brand or account?
I know the answer to that. The answer is yes. By transfer, are we asking about, are we selling one SKU or one brand inside of a seller account that has multiple brands? If the answer is yes, yes, you can do that. You got to look at it from a buyer's perspective and see if it's right for them. If you're in a situation where somebody approaches you and they want to buy it and they're going to move it into their own seller account or a new seller account, it can be done. It's easy. The challenge, it's not easy. The challenge is you have to take that inventory out of FBA, goes back to your warehouse, gets broken, chipped and whatnot, repaired. You got to repackage it, relabel it, send it back into the new seller account. So there's going to be a period there of, oh boy, what do I do? So you got to time that with, before you remove that, you put the other account live and you ship inventory from your manufacturer, from your supplier directly into that new seller account. So there's some logistical stuff that you have to deal with there. The most difficult part of the transfer of that is actually the paid advertising accounts and the keywords and stuff like that. You could try to pull it all out and put it in Excel and transfer it over, but that doesn't transfer. But the ratings and reviews and all of that transfer, and it's fairly seamless. But I sold Mike Jackness's business. Mike, Mike Norm, I think, right?
Yeah.
So Mike runs a podcast, very, very successful podcast, helping people. He always talks about his own accounts and whatnot. But he had 4 brands in one seller account, and his goal was just to sell the entire thing one day. And he knew what he had to do, but he woke up one day and he's like, okay, someday is here. I'll get to that someday. And he woke up tired, exhausted, and the debt balance was too much risk, and that someday was here. And he reached out and he's like, okay, I'm ready. I want to sell. Two of the brands were not profitable because they were new, and he was spending a lot of money in launching them. So that would actually have been a negative in terms of the discretionary earnings. The third brand had maybe 10 SKUs. One SKU, the number one selling SKU that represented 65% of the total revenue, he was a reseller for, but he had exclusive rights to sell it online. The person that owned that said, no, I'm not ready to part ways with you, Mike. I'm not going to let you sell it to somebody else. So 2 brands, not profitable. Third brand wouldn't transfer. So he ended up doing the right thing and kept those 3, took them out of that one seller account, put them into 3 separate seller accounts. And yes, that example tells you that you can actually have more than one seller account. These were all non-competing brands. Set up new entities, took care of it all. And we sold that one single brand called Color It in its own seller account. And it was at a much stronger multiple than it would have been with all the other complexities because of it. And just for the record, I'm naming Michael and I'm naming the brand because he talks about it on his podcast. We talk about it on ours. It's all part of it.
When I heard you talk about that, I don't know what you think about this scenario, but let's say that you have multiple brands. What I've done now, and I still do this, I have multiple brands in one company. But if I think something's going to really fly, I'll create a separate company strictly for the brand. What are your thoughts about like stacking brands and companies? Should they be separated so you can sell it easily, and when somebody wants the financials, they can get it instead of assumptions?
Yeah, absolutely. If you want to get maximum value for your business and sell it to a great buyer at a great price with great terms, you've got to think of them first. That means a separate entity, clean books, accrual accounting, hire out the bookkeeping, Cap Forge, seller accountants. There's a whole bunch of them. Reach out. I'd be happy to refer you to any of them. They're good folks. They do the work for you. And you're going to probably, if you're a U.S. resident, be SBA eligible. Okay. So what all of that does is ends up putting you in a stronger position to be more attractive to a broader base of buyers. And therefore, you're going to get that better deal structure. You're going to get that better price because you're going to have multiple buyers come and make offers for your business. You're going to get to pick who you work with. You don't have to sell to an asshole. You get to pick the one you like because you're going to have to spend up to 40 hours over the first 90 days after closing with them. And odds are you'll be friends with them beyond that, and you'll be in a mastermind group together. You'll go to events together. You'll hang out together, and it'll change your life if you do things right. I think you should separate them out instantly when you first launch them. Maybe not, right? So you can maybe see if it's going to have some traction, then set up that separate LLC. You got to do your own thing. But the people that I've sold multiple business for that are true exitpreneurs are the ones that do that. They separate them out and they go, okay, I'm ready for this one. Here's the P&Ls. It's easy. They got to hire multiple. They get multiple offers and they move on very quickly.
Okay, this will be the last question. I just saw a book come through for you.
A book come through for me.
Yep. Just wait.
Okay. Hello, I'm an Amazon expert and private label seller. I provide consultancy for Amazon private label and wholesale. That includes product research. My aim is to provide quality work. BA. I'm not sure if there's an actual question here.
Umar, that is a question. Yeah. I mean, that is a book, indeed.
My aim is to provide quality work for private labels. Yeah, I don't think that's a question, but we do have one from Simon.
Okay.
It was one of his earlier ones. Okay. In a business with an exit strategy, how do you manage the expectations of the employees?
That's a very, very good question. And every situation is different. When I sold mine, I had one key employee and I didn't tell her. I didn't tell her until we were 90% of the way through due diligence. And I was real confident that we were going to close the transaction. And that's kind of what I advise most people do. Keep it close to the vest. It's nobody's business but yours. If you have a key employee, the quickest way to screw it up is to tell them that you're selling the business, and they're going to be very fearful that the new owner of the business isn't going to want to keep them. And so keep it to yourself is my advice. And then when you're getting close and you've got an offer, you're under letter of intent, you're in due diligence. If they're part of the due diligence process, say, look, I've got an offer. I'm going to sell the business, and here's what I'm going to do for you. They want to keep you. They're afraid to lose you because you're a key part of the business. So please don't be fearful of that. But in order to help ease your mind, I'm going to give you X amount of dollars. I'm going to put it in escrow at closing. And as long as you're with them for X amount of months, I'm going to release that fund to you, that fund to you. If they let you go, I'm going to pay you. So maybe it's a 3-month period, and then you're going to release funds, and you give them 6 months worth of payroll for that. In my situation, that's about what I did. Yeah, I told Vicky was her name. I said, if you stick around for 90 days after closing, I'm going to pay you for 6 months. I'm going to give you a bonus equal to 6 months of your payroll. She was part-time. It wasn't a ton of dough, to be honest with you. She ended up sticking around for a couple of years. But you got to take care of them, because if they're a key part of the business, and the transferability of the business is one of the key 4 pillars, it becomes harder to transfer when they have to scramble and find somebody and replace them. So keep it close to the vest, and then incentivize them to stick around, and let them know that the buyer of the business is just as afraid to lose them as they are to be let go because the buyer may not need them. I see most buyers not want to change a thing, keep those key people in place.
Right. I have a last question, I guess. Does it matter if you've got contractors working for you or employees?
It really doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Combination of both.
Okay.
Yeah. The hard thing can come when you've got multiple brands all separated out and one group of VAs working on all of the brands. You've got to track how many hours each VA puts into each brand. This is what happened with Mike's business. He had 10 VAs working on 4 brands. And a group of the VAs were going to transfer with a sale and work 100% on Color It. And what kept coming up from buyers was, well, he's just going to give me the worst VAs. He's not going to give me the good stuff, right? Fearful. Buyers are fearful. Mike's a good human, and he actually gave Matt his best VAs, just the opposite. They were all great, right? But you got to keep it simple. You got to think about that buyer and do what's right for them. And then again, you're going to get what's right for you. It's a weird thing. And I know you do this every day in your life, Norm, but when you give of yourself and you help others first in business, perhaps in life, but in terms of business, you're not thinking of yourself first, but the end result is that you get rewarded really, really well, right? That's why we give stuff away for free. That's why we do valuations for nothing. That's why we help people. Because at the end of the day, we do get rewarded for it. You've got to do the same thing when operating your business and thinking about your eventual buyer.
Right. Hey, we're at the end of the podcast. You made it.
I did.
You made it. So first of all, you've got a book coming out.
I do. First thing I want to say is don't ever write a book, people. It's a royal pain in the ass. It's 10 years in the making and 18 months of grinding it out. We're done with the massive edits and review, final edits, and all of the graphics are being worked on now. We're looking at end of March, early April. It's called the EXITpreneur's Playbook, How to Sell Your Online Business for Maximum Dollar by Reverse Engineering Your Pathway to Success. A lot of what we talked about here, but it goes into great detail. It's essentially, it's the ultimate reference guide to selling your business. It will help you avoid that ignorance discount in many, many ways. So it's, again, the EXITpreneur's Playbook. Kelsey's going to take email addresses, names and email addresses. I need names and email addresses. The site is not live yet. It will be in a week or so. But anybody listening today, if you give Kelsey your name and email address, I will give you a 100% off promo code for when we launch the business or launch the book, again, which is going to be April.
Does that include people with beards?
Absolutely.
Perfect.
1/110% off.
Okay, thank you so much. All right. How do people get a hold of you?
Quietlight.com. Simple as that. Reach out, fill out the valuation form. If you want to really understand the value of what you have and eventually get to that exit goal, that's the best thing to do. You may not get me directly. Again, we've got 12 brilliant advisors, people that have all built, bought, sold their own online business. They've been preparing for this role their entire life without knowing it. Most of them are so much more successful than I was in my prior entrepreneurial life. I'm an entrepreneur now, don't get that wrong. But these guys are really sharp, very, very good. So quietlight.com.
Very good. So if you're interested in getting a free book, once it comes out, send over your email to Kelsey and we'll make sure that you get the link, the promo code. All right, Joe, I think that's it. Yes, that's it. No more questions. You're off the hook.
I'm free. I can go have some
free.
lunch. All right, thanks.
You can go walk the dog now.
That one just runs around and barks at squirrels. No walk for that
I
one.
do too.
Yeah.
All right, Joe. Thanks for being on the podcast.
You bet. Good to see you, Norm.
Yeah, you too. See you later. All right, everybody. I hope you learned something here. I always love talking to Joe. I learn something every time we talk together. He was on a podcast before with us, one of our earlier podcasts. Go back, check it out. He talks about a bunch of different things. But it's always fun talking with Joe. Anyways, Kelsey, where are you?
Hello. Yeah, that's great.
Okay.
Awesome. Okay, so yes, if you haven't already, please like this episode, share it to a friend. If you have someone that's, smash that like button. But if you know someone that is thinking about selling their business or doesn't know where to start, if you could just tag them in this episode, that would be great. And also, if you haven't already, join the Beard Nation. That is our Facebook group. It's you can search it by searching Lunch with Norm, Amazon FBA, and eCommerce Collective, and you'll be able to have all we have a great section of giving advice, questions. If you have any questions about the show or about our guests, you can answer them there. And also, while you guys were talking, I actually started a Patreon. So it's brand new. I'm still tinkering with it, but that is something if you guys are looking to help us out and just say thank you.
Buying you a coffee or something?
Yeah, like buy us a coffee, something like that. So I'm gonna give more information on that later on.
Cool.
But that is an option because I know I've gotten a couple people that want to give back, but they don't know how. But even just liking and sharing this episode is all the things we need. Yeah.
Smashing likes.
Smashing.
Okay, so Friday, we have our returning guest, Kevin King. So he's going to be on talking shop with us. I always love sitting down talking with Kevin, seeing what's up. So he's, oh, by the way, did you see what came in the door just before we walked in?
I saw there's a bunch of boxes.
That was from Kevin. He sent us this product package that he had. I think he talked about it on his on the last podcast. Anyway, it's pretty cool. So whoever won those prizes, I just saw what you received. It's excellent. So anyways, Kevin's going to be on next episode. Can't wait to talk to him. And I think that's probably it from us too. So tune in every Monday. You're going to interrupt me, aren't you?
Mm-hmm. Simon had a question. How to get the book, Joe's book. So it's not actually out yet. It's coming out in like April. So to get the discount, just email me your name, and then I'll have your email as well, and we'll get that all sorted out. So yeah, it's not out yet. You can't buy it yet. But if you email me, I'll give you a discount code, and I'll send that through Joe. And yeah,
I can talk now.
Floor is yours.
Well, thank you so much. All right, everybody. So tune in every Monday, Wednesday, Friday at noon Eastern Standard Time. Thank you for joining us. I hope you enjoyed the podcast today with Joe Valley, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Entrepreneur.